that's a great question. There's a couple that come to mind. Two jump out really quickly. We know we have the indications for NASH upcoming for a couple products, right? 5 to 6% of the population could have NASH. So I think of the one that could be approved this late spring, early summer is Ocaliva. It's already approved today for PBC. It could get the NASH indication later this spring. That's really exciting. NASH is an unmet need. We look at this as perhaps by 2028, this could be a $3.2 billion market. The next drug to be approved is Madrigal's resomelagon. That could be approved in the fall or in September. So it's really exciting, large unmet needs. And when you think of managed care, and I was a pharmacy director at one time, I mean, they've been looking at these drugs for many years, right? So you think that they probably have this built into their PM impacts, or they should have it, because it could be a big hitter. The other one I'll mention, and we have the Alzheimer's. We've discussed Alzheimer's disease, over the last couple of years. It's been interesting, but we had another one actually approved in, I think it was January, called Leqembi from Eisai. Another unmet need. It remains to be seen, how much commercial business they'll do, but this could be a $400 million market by 2028. So I wanted to really bring that to light because we're always looking at products. Alzheimer's could have a big population. I think 6 million Americans potentially could have Alzheimer's. So when I look at this pipeline, there's a lot of drugs that I'll cover in my presentation, but these three jumped out at me. Interesting from a managed care perspective, interesting from a patient care perspective, and really the sheer number of individuals that these products could be effective for. And again, when you look at this clinically, I mean, what is NASH? It's a progressive disease, right? It's excessive fats in the liver. I think, and I have a stat, I know I said 5 to 6% of the population has NASH, but there's a subset of that, about 12% of that 5 to 6% could go to cirrhosis. So I think it's something that's going to have to be diagnosed in the appropriate folks. Managed care could look at this differently, but it's really regardless of what it ultimately gets approved for. There's a significant patient population, and it does fit an unmet need. So I think these two drugs are going to be approved for that indication this year. I think this overlaps with a couple things. NASH is the big one, right? Everybody asks me about that. We already mentioned it's a $3.2 billion market potentially in 2028, and payers have known about it. Also, depending upon the indications that it's approved for, there could be up to 30 million patients that potentially could take this, depending upon the indications. Each patient could be about $25,000 per patient per year. Now, I don't know what the ultimate price will be, just some of the best guesstimates. So, that could be something, if you haven't planned for it as a pharmacy director, that could bust your budget. And we also looked at some stats. I think 44% of the pharmacy spend right now is specialty drugs. That could go up to 54% in a couple of years. But if you're looking for some budget busters, I know cell and gene therapies are the ones that pharmacy directors and even medical directors are looking at. I think there's two this year that could come out and impact the marketplace. One is for Duchenne from Sarepta. It's SRP 9001, and I always pronounce this one. It's Delastrogene, Moxaparvovec, right? There's an advisory board on May 12th. So right after Asembia, there'll be an advisory board to look at this product. It could be approved. There's a couple products in the market today, Exondys, Amondys, and Euflexa, that are really just supportive care, right? So this could actually halt the disease. We know that 1 in every 3,000 to 5,000 newborns, mostly male, could have Duchenne. So, and that could be a budget buster, right? We know that these cell and gene drugs could be anywhere from 2.5 million to 3 million potentially. We don't know. And then the second one that I saw was Veloctocine Roxaparvovec, right, for severe hemophilia A. The expected PDUFA is June 30th. So in short order, you could have in May and then in June, you could have 2 cell and gene products come to market. And I think the cell and gene market is really interesting. And look, there's about 1,000 drugs in clinical trials for cell and gene therapies, right? So think of that over the next couple of years. The FDA is saying that they could approve 10 to 20 drugs a year. If you're managing a pharmacy benefit or a medical benefit, it's really important to get out in front of these. How are you going to pay for it? What are the potential patient counts in your panel? How will it impact PMs? How do I manage that particular budget for the year? So pricing could cause significant challenges to the payers. Many manufacturers are, involved in bringing cell and gene products to market. You have Vertex, BMS, Sarepta that we just talked about. BioMarin has a few products. So that is something that, even though there may be two this year, in the near future, we could be seeing a lot more cell and gene drugs coming to market. So, and I know that's on everybody's radar screen. So I think they're the products that could really, hit the budget this year. I mean, thinking about that, if I'm on a health plan or payer side or an employer side, you really have to look at the management of these products. How do you manage these costs? Maybe how do you amortize these costs over time? What are the outcomes? What can I do with the manufacturer to guarantee the effectiveness of it, right? In this particular product, it's almost like a zero fail project, right? If you're going to approve one of these products, I believe it has to be effective, not only repairing or editing the gene, but actually impacting the disease, right? The products may do what you're asking them to do, but really, how does it impact the disease? How long can the therapy, or can it last, as far as so that you have good outcomes over time and actually bring savings back to the medical side of the benefit, right? So those are things that pharmacy benefit and the medical benefit teams have to work through to identify what outcomes they need to get to and how can they be supported by pharma and the specialty pharmacy. So, yeah, you're right. I mean, if you think about it, if you're a pharmacy director and you're paying for that product this year and the patient moves on to another payer or another medical plan, hey, I just cured that patient, and I may not be getting the benefits of it. How do we come together as an industry to ensure that we all share in those savings? And I think those are things that need to be figured out, especially as we see this, onslaught. I look at this space almost like I looked at specialty when I was a pharmacy director in the U.S. healthcare in the late 90s when you had drugs like Synagis approved. You started seeing the higher cost multiple sclerosis products being approved, and patients weren't sure how to get them. The therapies were a little bit more complex. For Synagis, docs didn't want to buy and bill, right? So that the advent of specialty pharmacies really arose to support the docs, so the pharmacy could dispense it, and the physician just had to worry about administering it, not managing the AR. And then you had this onslaught in the pipeline of specialty drugs that were high cost and needed to be managed. I look at this, but I look at it that it's almost specialty, and I don't want to say I am going to say it's specialty on steroids, right, from a cost perspective, when you think about it. But it's exciting nevertheless, right? I mean, we've all been through specialty pharmacy as it's evolved, and I think this is a natural evolution, probably into another business line. I think you hit it on the head when you talked about different tools to manage it, different tools to manage the patient through the therapy. Collecting outcomes is going to be more important than ever, right? Some of that post-clinical surveillance to understand, was it effective? Did it impact the patient's quality of life? Did it really save on the medical benefit? I think those are things that really, as an industry, we have to embrace and manage, so that we can, tell the world these are amazing products. They're curative, right? And I think that's why they're so expensive. But in any event, it's exciting. I love to see how this is going to evolve, probably into a new business line, and we'll be looking at this in 10 years the way we looked at specialty pharmacy in 2010, right? With excitement, with awe, and just trying to figure out, okay, what's next? And here we are. So.